What is up? What is up? What is up? If you are watching the replay, fast forward to the 5 minute mark. If you are watching the replay, fast forward to the 5 minute mark. But come on in, come on in, come on in. Everybody that is watching, come on in. We got a great conversation for you tonight. We got a great conversation for you tonight. Come on in, come on in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. We got a great conversation for you all tonight. I hope you all learned something. I hope something hits home for you. And if you are watching the replay later at your own convenience, I pray that you would get something out of this conversation. Crystal, how you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic.
Feeling
I'm
fantastic.
super excited.
That's what I like to hear.
Yes, I can't wait to hear all this good information that's going to be shared tonight. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into some stuff today for sure. Most definitely. Let's see, we're gonna get started in a couple of minutes. Any questions you all might have, please put them in the comment section. Any comments you have, please put them in the comments. Any questions you have, please put them in the comment section. I know it's been a long time since me and my wife started going live. We were not consistent, but you all were very supportive. But this year, we're going to try to make our efforts to stay consistent with our lives, even if it's just one of us, because we realized that this was very helpful to a lot of relationships, helpful to a lot of marriages. And to be honest, our schedules were just, it was always like something was going on a certain day. And it was like, man, we're supposed to go live, but we didn't. And then we just kind of fell off, and we got to stop doing that. But I'm excited. The new face you guys see, the road dog, the homie, the sis,
Hey,
the
everybody.
infamous Crystal. I'm not gonna tell you her last name. You just need to know
Nice to meet you. Nice
Crystal.
to meet you.
Yeah. Tell them a little about yourself. Tell them what you do. Tell them about your podcast. Tell them everything you want to tell them.
Ooh, I don't know if I want to tell them too much. You know, this is social media. You can't be giving all your juices away. But my name is Crystal. I also have a podcast called Water to Wine. And I'm also talking about different topics. And I definitely had artists on my podcast, and him and his wife, and I had him as amazing wife, and I had a few other people on my podcast, and it was awesome. And I think you guys should go to my YouTube page and definitely listen and all that. And also, I am here in Asheville, and we just doing amazing things. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I'm honored to be here, and it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump into this thing. Tonight we're going to be talking about the subject. We're going to be talking from the subject, the type of man you should marry. The type of man you should marry. Now, with all of the relationship conversations that's been going on from 2020 up till now, it's been a lot of conversation, about man versus woman. But that's not really my approach when I talk about relationships. I don't want to pit men against women or place blame and point the finger. I just think that in conversations, it's important to really just be honest, be transparent, state the facts, state the perspectives, and that way we can grow and come back together as one. And so I think that's important. And so when we really, really deal with this topic, I want to help women understand specific characteristics that you should look for and specific characteristics that you should know. Well, let me say it a better way. Specific characteristics that you know will lead to a long, fruitful, and productive marriage. And so, as we have this conversation, Krista will be reading any comments or any questions in the chat, if you so have some. But let's jump right into it. Again, my name is Artist Anderson, and this is Miss Crystal, and she's going to be my co-host for tonight and other lives in the future. And so I'm the CEO and founder of Forever Love, which is a relationship consulting firm, and we help people with their marriages, their relationships, and we help singles who aspire to be married. And so that's what we do. We also have a hotline, fully anonymous, call toll free. If you want to call the hotline, that number is 1-888-420-0471. Make sure you call that hotline, or you can text us at that number, 1-888-420-0471, so that you can get your relationship and marriage questions answered and get the help that you need. Now, during this session, like I always want to tell you guys, don't be quick to disagree. Don't be quick to disagree. All right. Have an open mind. Receive and apply the information where it applies. And don't be defensive or reject what can actually help you because of your experiences or your feelings. All right. Also, my goal is to help you, not harm you. My goal is to help you have healthy, healed, whole, productive relationships and marriages, because relationships are designed to help us, sharpen us, grow us, balance us, protect us, correct us, and challenge us. And so when we get into this conversation, let me give out this disclaimer. Marrying the right man. Krista, I almost want to make sure I preface this because
right, because they can take it wrong. They can take it
they
wrong.
can take it wrong. In order to marry the right man, you must know the type of woman you are.
Ooh.
You know I'm coming with bangers right off the gate.
You hit me dead in my chest, right here in my chest. Ooh. Like,
listen, in order to marry the right man, you have to know the type of woman you are.
Right.
So every man that pursues you, you can't just try it out, because trying out any man without realizing who you are and the type of woman you are, you'll get yourself caught up in your feelings and then be stuck with the wrong man. Are we here? And this happens a lot. People get caught up, they get in their feelings, and then it's like, well, I don't know if I should stay or go, but I'm already intertwined, and I'm already having feelings. And so it gets difficult for people, because it's like, what am I supposed to do now that I have feelings, but I don't think it's the right situation? And so it becomes very, very difficult for people. Very, very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so what I want people to understand is this important factor. Marrying the right man is all about understanding the type of woman you are. Now, I'm a firm believer that no woman should pursue a man. I am of the mindset that no woman should pursue a man. I believe the book. I believe the book. A man that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. And so the reason why I think it's important for women to know this disclaimer, well, it's kind of like my second disclaimer, really. The moment you start to pursue a man, you actually start to position yourself to be disappointed down the road. And I'm explaining what I mean. A woman that's not pursued, it's very possible that down the road, she's going to wonder whether or not this man is a leader, She's going to question whether or not this man wants her.
Mm.
She's going to question whether or not this man values her or if she's important to him. And so it's important that you understand that men and women were created a certain way, and there's nuances to the way we were created. Right. And it's important that we understand these things because they're detrimental to the future of every relationship. They're very detrimental to the future of every relationship. Now, what I'm not saying is don't make it well, let me say this a better way, because people take stuff wrong all the time. You should not be easy to get.
Facts.
You should not be easy to get, but that doesn't mean be difficult. What it means is position yourself to continue to learn of him as he pursues you in a safe and healthy way. You got some questions. I already know. Go ahead. Fire away.
You know, I got questions. Listen. So how should a woman be? How should she handle herself to be pursued?
How should a woman handle herself to be pursued?
Right.
Let me keep it as simple as possible. Whenever something is being pursued, right?
Right.
It's important to understand your responsibility. So if a woman knows that she is going to be pursued, her number one priority is to be ready.
Ooh. Facts. Okay. That makes sense.
And if a woman is spending time chasing, she's not spending the time being ready. So what is the dynamic? A man prepares himself, becomes ready, then he pursues. Then he goes out to look. A man prepares himself, gets himself ready, and once he's ready, he goes out and look, and he pursues. But what is happening during this process? A woman doesn't know when she's going to actually be found. So isn't it important to be ready? Now, how many men find their wife and then have to do all of this extra work because she's not ready?
Woo!
Now, I can hear some women saying right now, see, I was ready, but my man he ain't got it together. I said, and you still got with him. We have to be careful what we complain about when we accepted it already.
Right.
I cannot buy a broke down car then complain about it.
Oof.
My desperation for a car doesn't mean I make a bad decision.
Right.
And so it's important that we understand these nuances. So the question becomes, what is actually the definition of a marriage material man? Right?
Yeah. That
question is very, very complicated, but I'm gonna try to simplify it. And instead of giving a definition for it, I'm going to go through 2 or 3 characteristics.
Okay.
Now I got about 10 of them laid out here, but I'm only going to choose 2 to 3. But I'm going to go with the first one because this is the most important one in my mind. One of the most important, right? One of the top 2. Characteristic number 1 of the type of man you should marry. Characteristic number 1 of the type of man you should marry. A man of his word. A man of his word. Back in the day, you would often hear older women complain about how the man was late picking them up. Back in the day, you had to it was different, right?
Right.
He's coming to pick you up and he's coming
right.
to, and he'd be late.
And his little hoopty.
Little hoopty, right? He'd be late to the restaurant or whatever the case may be, right?
Right.
But here's the important piece, right? Here's a very, very, very important piece. When it comes to the dynamic of men and husbands, um, a man of his word has to be at the top of the list. Because when a woman submits herself unto a man for life, she has to be able to know that when he speaks, it's done. Period. Because her security is wrapped up in that word.
Mm.
Now, let me give you a great nugget real quick. And if you know and if she knows you're a man of your word, she won't even trip if certain things don't always pan out because she's going to look at your effort.
Ooh.
So it's important that we understand this very, 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 very important characteristic. Your husband or your future husband, he must be a man of his word. Because a man who doesn't honor his word can never be trusted. And if you can't trust him at his word, your security will always be rocky.
Listen, all in my chest right now.
Yeah. Well, talk to me. What you thinking?
I mean, the men I have dated in the past, their word was never their bond. You know, they say one thing and then their actions show something completely different. And so you're absolutely right. Like, if I can't trust your word, how can I trust you? Mm-hmm. You're on territory.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I agree to that 100%. 100%. But I never heard it in that way. You know, that a man is actually, his word is his bond. Like, that's top.
It is. Because the reality is that woman has to trust that man with her safety, her protection, the finances. And I'm not saying that the man has to be in control of everything, but the point I'm making is she got to trust that he's willing to work hard, sacrifice. Like there's so many different. Well, let's be honest. A man of your word falls into everything. It is in the fabric of everything.
Right.
It's in the fabric of everything. And so the reality is, if you are not careful, you'll end up with a man who you cannot trust when he speaks. And the moment you can't trust him at his word, you're going to start to doubt him. And you're going to start to doubt him, and it's going to cause friction, and it's going to cause all sorts of issues within the relationship.
Right.
So it's important that we understand this, because if you choose to marry a man whose word is not secure, watch out. Because it's only a matter of time before his word becomes far few and in between. You must marry a man of his word. This is how you get the kid. You know how they do the movies, right? The kids be waiting on their dad to pick them up from soccer, and dad's like, "I'll be there," and then before you know, they walking off the field, say, "I thought daddy was coming." See, right. A man who, when a man is a man of his word, he doesn't make excuses. He creates solutions.
I've been living my life in a lie. I've been living my whole life lying, okay? I've been living with the wrong type of man. I've been creating the wrong type of man. I mean, my life, I mean, I just want to throw my whole life into the garbage can. I just want to do this all over again.
Well, don't throw it all in the trash. I'll tell you this, though. It's important that we understand this, because part of my passion is to help the future generation, right?
Right.
And this type of information needs to be shared with the world, because, and taught to our communities, because we jump in relationships based on how we feel. based on based on the propaganda desires we are given
Yeah,
based
because that's
off
how.
looks and aesthetics and stuff like
Mhm,
that. That is,
absolutely,
yeah. And
absolutely.
yeah, go ahead. What you was gonna say?
I was like, that's how the world. Everything is feelings. Everything
Mm-hmm.
that we do. If you don't feel it, then that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know, it got to be solid. It got to be foundation. And I feel
Yep.
like we, as our generation, we wasn't taught this information.
Yeah.
We wasn't taught this, and I'm a woman that's, in today's society that's also single. And it's like, now I have to change everything about myself
Mm-hmm.
so that I'm in position, and I'm not looking for a man, but if he presents himself, then I'm open to that. But
Yeah.
we weren't taught this, especially women growing up in, a single family household. This information was not given to us.
Yeah. The funny thing is, you can actually learn what type of man you need to marry by listening to the older women complain.
Mm. But sometimes we also go after the same man.
Yeah, because it's ingratiated. And see, the thing is, the curiosity is a powerful tool,
Right.
right? And it's a tool that let me say it a better way. Curiosity is an interesting dynamic because it makes you focus on the what ifs,
Mm.
right? Instead
Right.
of focusing on what's secure. And so that's how people get caught up in all of the wrong things,
Right. But
right?
also, you can be a product of your environment. If you haven't seen something better, how would you know that you're capable of getting something better?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. The whole thing about being a product of our environment is it's such a the dichotomy of that is weird because I use an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll use I'm gonna go I'm going to go on the far deep end
Okay.
just to make a point. You know what? I'm not even gonna do it today. I'm gonna let it be. I'm gonna let it be.
Okay.
But
But
we
we,
got it. But the being a byproduct of our environment is a realistic thing,
yes.
and it's important that we learn to change our environment
Right.
and fill it with the right information so that we can begin to change these dynamics.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Now, let's go to the second characteristic. The type of man you should be marrying is a self-controlled man.
Mm.
Now, this one is interesting because it sounds like it's supposed to be simple.
Right.
It sounds like it should be easy.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, oh yeah. I want a man. Yeah, self-control. Yeah, but how many people? Let me ask you a question, Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Just that you can think of. Whenever you've heard a group of women be asked, what type of man are you looking for? Do they ever say self-control?
Never.
Now I'm not making this up. Y'all see I'm asking a woman this question. The
Never.
question is, why doesn't a woman ever say the characteristic of self-control?
We'll say we don't want a man that cheat.
Yeah, but then they might
They
beat you.
want somebody that makes six figures. I feel like that's a little
Yeah.
over the top. But if you don't make six figures, why you want a man that makes six figures? That's just my personal opinion. But we're not going to talk about that.
Now
We're
that's a
not.
whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother topic. But I'm just saying, I've never heard of a man being. I never heard of him being. No, never.
The reason why we don't make self-control an important characteristic to to look for and study and test is because our nature and our desires will always crave or typically crave the things that are not important.
Mhm.
This is how people end up in abusive situations because they did not assess. See, this is what I mean by being prepared.
Mhm.
A prepared woman who's being pursued will be in a position to watch, and she will never jump at anything
Mm.
because she's not desperate. And people hate when I say this, but you should be willing to wait at least a year.
Y'all in this year thing, okay? I don't understand this year thing. Listen, I did my year, okay?
Right? Now, here's the thing. When you meet somebody on January 1st,
Mhm.
you should watch this man from a distance for a year at least.
Mm.
While you spending all your time talking to him on the phone and going out on dates, you need to be around his family, his talking to his friend, not around, but on the phone with the family, on the phone with the friends. You need, it's crazy. When I do premarital counseling, one of the things I'm about to start implementing is in some of those sessions, I'm going to make it a requirement to speak with their best friends and their family members.
Mm.
See, what we don't realize is we're so eager and desperate in many ways to have something, right? To
Mhm.
have something. But what we don't realize is that certain characteristics that are subtle yet vital, like self-control, get lost in the shuffle.
Mm.
How do you handle your temper? How do you
Mm.
handle when things don't go your way? How do you handle the word no? How do you handle rejection? How do you handle disrespect? Like all of these are questions that you can't just ask. You got to watch.
Mm.
You got to watch because see, being self-controlled means you can control your actions and your mouth.
Oof.
You can control your actions and your mouth. You can control your actions and your mouth. See, self-control is not just preventing yourself from doing something. The greatest self-control is being able to tame your mouth.
Mm. I'm holding my lips because that's a hard one.
Because
I'm learning. That's a process.
because the moment you can control your mouth, then you can master yourself. But
Mm.
that's a whole nother conversation. But the thing is, can you remain calm? Can you control your temper? Can you be upset, disappointed, angry, and still not get violent? What we don't do is take the time to see people in specific environments before our feelings is attached.
Mm.
So we have to learn how to master getting to know somebody without falling in love.
Mm.
But the issue is we become so emotionally attached because of our desperation, and most of us are not going to admit that we be desperate because we're not humble.
Mm.
One of the greatest downfalls of our generation is people are not willing to really be vulnerable and transparent. So they'll say things like, I'm not desperate. And it's like, well, how did you end up in that situation if you weren't desperate?
Mm.
Only desperation puts you there.
Yep.
So,
Fact.
so, so, so getting back to the self-control, a self-controlled man can remain a faithful man.
Mm.
And so when you combine self-control and a man of his word, when he tells you I'm faithful, you have nothing to worry about because you see he's a self-controlled man. And so now you prevent yourself from having to walk through the relationship with any lack of trust.
Mm.
We don't realize how often we bring on ourselves the issues we deal with in relationships because of the choices we make. I ask people, if there is so much wrong with this person, why did you choose them?
Mm.
One of the things I always hear people say is, well, they weren't like this in the beginning. And I said, maybe you should have waited.
They were. Or we're blind to see it. We just don't want to see it.
Now the question is, why were we blind? Why are people blind to see it?
Because we're desperate.
See, we just have to get, we just have to move through all of the foolishness and the foolery and the fakeness and be honest about things.
Right. Facts.
That's what we have to be able to do.
Right.
Because the reality is, these types of conversations should not become a matter of, no, that ain't you. No, let's sit down and really have this conversation. Self-control is a discipline that only God can grow in us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not self-controlled, my question is, do you know God?
Mm-mm.
Now,
or you have a watered down God that ain't real.
Yeah. Now it sounds harsh, but I'm only going to be stern about this in this moment to drive home a point. Self-control is not something that just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Something bigger than you, more powerful than you, has to help you secure that. Right? And so there's this scripture that comes to mind. It says in Proverbs 25, around verse 28, it says, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. A person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls, right? So broken down walls means there's no safety or protection from anything outside attacking anything inside the city, right? So here's what makes this thing dynamic very interesting about that verse. What this actually points to, in this case, the husband, it means that without self-control, he has lost the ability to keep his family protected.
Oof.
Because his lack of self-control removes all the barriers and allows any and everything to come in and attack his home.
And then that makes her feel insecure.
It makes her feel unsafe, insecure, like attacked. Like the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
Let me give you an analogy.
That's good. You dropping gems tonight.
I try. Listen. Let's just say me and my family are out at Walmart. Now remember, a man without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. Let's just say I go to Walmart with my family and this guy bumps into me and then he tries to fight me. If I walk away, I'm displaying self-control. But what I'm doing is actually protecting my family with walls and barriers of self-control. Because if I don't, what happens if I get into an altercation and bullets start flying? So what the verse is actually saying is, a man without self-control allows things to come in and destroy his own. So a man without self-control should never be your husband.
Wow.
It just shouldn't happen, because you can't afford to put your life on the line or your children on the line. Now, throughout these types of conversations, I can hear people, but you don't understand, women be da-da-da, and women da-da-da-da, and women be da-da-da, and women, I'm like, listen, I understand, but put your feelings aside and be a man for a second, and let's deal with us. We could deal with women later, but let's deal with us right now. We need to be men of our word.
Right.
We need to be self-controlled. Here goes my third characteristic that men need to have in order for a woman to marry him. Ooh. Accountability.
Ooh, drop the mic.
Accountability.
Ooh.
I'll make this the last one for tonight. A man willing to be held accountable is a true leader. And anybody with the title of husband is required to lead. Like, I know there's this conversation about in the world, especially in the church world, that, you know, wives are supposed to submit to their husbands. And that is accurate. A wife is supposed to submit to her husband. But the men are supposed to submit also. And but the question is, what does it look like? What does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
A wife is supposed to submit to her husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me say it a better way. I'll say it this way. When a woman becomes a wife, she submits to her husband. When a man becomes a husband, he leads his wife. And that is his submission. A submitted man is a leader, not a dictator. And oftentimes women are marrying men who are not leaders. And now when you try to hold him accountable, it's next to impossible, because men who are not leaders don't want to be held accountable, nor can they be held accountable, because leaders understand the power of accountability and the necessity of it. See, the thing is this. Accountability shows that you can take correction.
Oof.
And a man that gets corrected, a man who struggles to be corrected has an ego. That's a pride thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when a man is willing to be accountable, it means he's willing to be corrected. And it shows that he's not driven by his ego. Which goes back to the reality of, wow, you are actually safe.
Oof.
You are actually safe. Because if I see something that's unacceptable, I can come to you and you're not going to get defensive, but you're going to accept what I have to say, or at least take it into consideration before you just blow me off.
Right.
Because the question becomes, is he accountable enough to become a better version of himself over time? Any man willing to do that is safe. Any man willing to do that is safe to marry.
Oof.
So let's look at the dynamics of these three characteristics, because I got more. But let's look at these dynamics.
I don't know if my little heart can take it.
What is the type of man a woman should marry? A man of his word, characteristic number one. A self-controlled man, characteristic number two. And a man who's willing to be accountable, characteristic number three. What does all three of these men have in common? What does all the three of these characteristics have in common? It shows you that he's submitted to somebody of authority. Because he don't just learn this on his own.
Facts.
It is hard to trust a man who says, I'm submitted to God, but don't have any form of natural leadership in the earth.
Ooh.
Because anybody could say they're submitted to God and go do a devil worshiping ceremony, be like, come on, man, let's have some fun.
Come on.
I'm not gonna make this a spiritual conversation like that, But what I'm saying is that what is the proof of your submission to God?
Mm.
It is your willingness to have accountability to a man of authority that you trust, who has proven his character, proven his leadership, and you learn of that, you pull of that, you draw of that. And because you've been a great follower, you are now promoted to being a great leader, which makes you safe to marry.
Mm.
But the problem with our society is these types of conversations are far few in between. And then, in my experience, when you try to explain these dynamics to women, especially, it's not that they won't listen, it's that they get caught up in how they feel about a certain man, right? And I am of the mindset that we have to do a better job, because here's the reality. We have to do a better job all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
Men have to be men.
Mm-hmm.
Women have to be accountable for the men they accept into their lives,
Facts.
right? Why? Because it all affects the children.
Yep.
And that impacts the community.
Wow.
You don't change the community by giving out turkeys. That's stupid.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
And to be honest, poor people can buy turkeys.
Right.
Like this, I don't know who created that. If they can buy toys, they can buy turkeys.
Right.
We find a way to get what we want when we want to get it. That
Mm.
doesn't mean everybody. What I'm saying is, everybody getting turkeys for free don't mean they can't afford a turkey.
Right.
So how do we really begin to impact and change our communities? We have to do it in a way that affects the family.
It's about the foundation.
It is the foundation. And the
Mm-hmm.
foundation of every home is that man.
Yep.
So especially my ladies, listen to me clearly. If you have children and you're single, I understand you get lonely. I understand it gets difficult. But you cannot accept anything.
Mm.
You can't afford to.
Facts.
You cannot just accept anything. You have to be cognizant and aware of the detrimental effects of your choices. But this ain't about y'all. This is about men. Well, technically it is about y'all.
I feel like it's about both.
Yeah, it is. And so what I want you guys to understand, and we're done for the night. I'm not gonna keep giving y'all more and more and more. I want you to simmer in what we've shared with y'all tonight.
Yes, because I'm definitely gonna listen to this again.
Yeah, good. That's important because
I'm gonna let it sizzle in my spirit. I'm gonna let it sizzle in my spirit.
because when we talked about marriage on your podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reality was the conversation we were having was so necessary because a lot of people didn't understand the dynamic of marriage,
Right.
as it pertains to the type of husbands that a woman really needs, especially a
Yes.
godly woman,
Yes.
right? And so those conversations were very crucial
Yes.
so that people will understand, all right, what type of marriage do you want?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you want a godly marriage? Okay. What does that look like? It's more than just posting on social media. It's more than just, having somebody to say is yours. There's real characteristics that go into this
Mm-hmm.
that have to be there before you even think about marriage.
Right.
And here's what people try to do. They try to get married first and then hope it transforms into something that they desire.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to do a better job of that.
Yeah.
We got to do a much better job of that, of having these conversations so that it can be beneficial to everybody. But again, marrying these type of men will put you on the right trajectory. Ladies, take heed. Marry this type of man. Make sure these characteristics are a part of his DNA. What you got to say, Crystal?
So there are a lot of counterfeits, especially in the church house. They
Mm-hmm.
make it seem like they're into God and all these things, and they're saying the right things that we want to hear, but their character does not add up. And we as women, we go into the church house because we're safe. That's a safe place. But we don't, like, these men they're liars. They're liars. So can you just give us one like gem that you can drop like within the next couple of minutes that a woman can know immediately within seconds of this man is a liar? And is he really what he say he's about?
Yeah. To be honest, you might, unless you have really, really strong discernment, you won't know right off
Mm,
the bat.
right.
Right. You won't know. But time reveals things, right?
Back.
Time reveals things.
Right.
And what I've always had an issue with women, like, and not personal issue, but like my concern, rather, I should use the word concern. My concern with women has always been, you, why is your woman's intuition so strong after the fact?
Mm.
Because what I would see is they would say, well, my woman's intuition is telling me he doing this and he doing that, and I just can't trust him. I'm like, but that was that should have been there when you met him. That, because that's the point of it. Like,
But we
that's
desperate. We desperate. We desperate.
so
We want the fairy tale. We want the Disneyland. You know, the Disney movies tell us like what Cinderella, she lost her shoe, and then the man came and found her and took her off into, Wonderland. We want the
yeah,
fairy when it's a
yeah.
lie.
So I would so my wisdom would be this. You might not know right off the bat, right?
Mhm. Right.
But I will tell you this: the more you give of yourself quickly,
Mm.
the less your discernment will be. I don't want to say it that way. Let me say it a different way. The quicker you give of yourself, the less your discernment will kick in, because your discernment is actually beneficial when you don't know anything and don't feel anything.
Mm.
But the moment your emotions are involved, your discernment begins to decrease, because now you lean on what you feel, and that's dangerous. And
Mm.
that's why it's important not to give of yourself.
Right.
Don't give of yourself.
Got it.
When jobs hire, one of the first things they do is look at your resume,
Right.
right? They look at your resume, and then they call you in for an interview.
Right.
Some job, before you get an interview, they call your references.
Yep. Your last employee. Yep.
Yeah. So they're getting all of this vetting. Like, they're doing all this vetting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, people aren't going to do this, but if somebody wants to pursue you, my question would be, why don't you get the ex of the person pursuing you and call them and see what they say?
Ooh. Wait a minute. Wait, time out. Time out. Time out. I don't want to play this game no more. I abhor me. No.
See, the very things that we can do, we don't do. And so, and I'm just giving you the nuggets you asked for, right?
Right.
Because the truth is, here's the issue with our community. I actually taught on this a while ago. Your privacy is killing you.
Mm.
People want to keep things so private,
Mm.
and they end up in these dangerous situations because of your privacy.
Ooh.
You don't want nobody to know who you're talking to. You want nobody to know who you like, and you want nobody. No, you need to let everybody know everything, because if somebody know him and they can give you some input, that would help you.
Get out my business.
Let me
Why
ask
you
you a
at the
question.
door?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If Ruth told everybody that she was interested in Boaz, what would they say about Boaz?
Mm. Oh, he probably was a cheater and not a good man and all the things.
No, Boaz was a good man.
Yeah, he was. But you know, you're talking
But
about
my point
nowadays,
is,
or you talking about in the Bible?
no, in the Bible.
Oh, they would have said he was an amazing man. He was wealthy.
Boom,
Yeah.
all of that. Now, what if it was in the reverse and she kept it a secret and didn't let anybody know?
Mm,
Then she wouldn't know these things.
right.
So the point I'm making is we have to become a little bit more wiser in how we handle our day-to-day life as it pertains to pursuing relationships and marriage.
Right.
And so it's important that we do that.
Right.
And I could give you a whole bunch of other things to look out for or what to do, but we have to be able to do the simple things, the basic things
Right.
that will benefit us, because here's the thing. Our women are precious. Our sisters are precious. Our daughters are precious. And this
Yes.
doesn't mean our sons aren't or our brothers aren't. It means that the order in which things were created, we are supposed to protect you.
Mm,
So
yeah.
when your blood brother says no,
No.
you should listen.
Mm,
When your father says, I don't know, you should take heed.
right.
We have to and I know that can be tricky too, because some dudes ain't gonna never be good enough for your daughter. So I get it.
Right.
But the truth remains. You need to take heed.
Right.
And the other thing is that because it's so detrimental for our daughters and our sisters, and we're the protectors, um, in the sense of we are supposed to watch out for you.
Mm,
And so it's important that you don't just live in this private place when it comes to your love life or your dating life, because that's a dangerous place to be in.
mm,
So in the name of nobody being in your business, you put yourself in an abusive situation, a detrimental situation, a dangerous situation, and don't want nobody to know nothing. That's
mm,
just not wise.
mm-hmm.
In the name of being private, in the
Mm,
name of I don't want nobody in my business.
right.
That's just not wise.
That was me. I did that. That was me.
we all, man and women, we've all done things we shouldn't have done, but
Right.
we need to learn and grow from it.
Absolutely. I,
So
I
we're
got,
gonna we're gonna wrap this up. Listen, in conclusion, any man that you desire to be with or date or accept into your life, I would encourage you to have that man vetted by another man that you trust and respect.
mhm.
I would encourage that to anybody listening. I would encourage that.
Sisters, listen, dropping gems, okay? Pick up the gems, okay? Pick them up.
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, it's important. It's very, very, very important. But we done for tonight. Thank you all for watching and listening. Those who are watching later, make sure you share, make sure you comment, make sure you like. Listen, I want to encourage everybody to make sure you share this, like it, subscribe, follow, all the above. Crystal, shout out your page and stuff.
My page is Water to Wine on Instagram and Water to Wine 2 on TikTok and Water to Grind on Snapchat. Yeah, Snapchat. So you guys go check me out. I'm definitely posting videos and all the good things. And I'm so excited. And thank you, artists, for allowing me this opportunity to do this amazing, giving me this amazing platform to be able to talk. And I'm excited.
Yeah, and we're going to do this more in the future, because I think that it's important that we have these conversations together, and I'm excited. So make sure y'all tune in. Whenever you see us go live, make sure you tune in. Appreciate y'all. See y'all next time.